He had built an empire of glass and gold, but all it took was one trembling letter that began with "Dear Mr. Cole, I think you might be my father." Hey everyone! Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here. If you're new, don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the fun. Let's jump right into today's video. The city glittered like a promise it never intended to keep. From the corner office of the Cole Tower, glass stretched to the skyline, reflecting power, precision, and silence. Inside, Ethan Cole stood before a floor-to-ceiling window, suit pressed, watch gleaming, expression unreadable. To everyone who worked for him, he was the man who had everything. To himself, he was the man who could feel nothing. Meetings, mergers, acquisitions. His calendar was full, but his life wasn't. The routine ran like clockwork. Every word, measured. Every decision, calculated. Even his morning coffee, black, no sugar, hadn't changed in 12 years. His assistant, Claire, stepped in, tablet in hand. "Your 9 o'clock is waiting." Ethan nodded, not turning. "Tell them I'll be there in 5. Claire hesitated. "There's something else. It's personal." That word hung in the air like smoke. Personal. Ethan finally turned, his eyes cool but sharp. From who? A young woman. She sent a letter. No return address, just a first name. Lily. He reached for the envelope she handed him. Cream paper, edges creased. Not an email. Not a contract. A letter. It looked out of place on his polished desk, like a whisper in a boardroom. Ethan didn't open it. He placed it aside, as if paper could burn. Across town, Lily Andrews sat in a small apartment that smelled faintly of paint thinner and instant coffee. Her fingers were smudged with charcoal. A half-finished sketch lay on the table, an outline of a man she had never met but had imagined 1,000 times. The postmark was days old now. She hadn't heard anything back. Maybe she never would. Her mother's box sat open beside her. Letters. Old photos. A single one with a note on the back, "He didn't know." Those words had sent her searching. She whispered into the quiet, "He deserves to know." But part of her heart argued, and what if he doesn't care? The rain started against the window, soft at first, then harder. She closed her sketchbook and looked at the phone. No message. No call. Just silence. Back at Cole Tower, Ethan's board meeting buzzed with talk of a billion-dollar acquisition. He didn't hear a word. His mind kept circling the envelope. His name, written in careful handwriting, not corporate, not casual. There was weight in every curve of each letter. When the meeting ended, he stayed behind. The room emptied, the city's hum rising faintly through the glass. He sat down, finally tearing the letter open. "Dear Mr. Cole, you don't know me. I think you might be my father." He froze. The words were simple. Direct. No demand, no bitterness. Just truth, bare and trembling. He kept reading. "My mother's name was Emily Andrews. She passed away 3 months ago. I found her journals, her letters to you that were never answered. I don't want anything. I just need to know if you knew about me." Ethan exhaled slowly. Emily. That name cut through the fog of his memory like a match to old paper. The summer in Paris. Her laughter. Her leaving. He hadn't thought of her in over 2 decades, and now here was proof she hadn't disappeared, not really. He read it again. Then again. The handwriting trembled slightly toward the end. "If you'd rather not reply, I understand. I just wanted you to know I exist." He folded the letter carefully, as if it might break, and set it down. His reflection in the glass behind it looked older than it should. That night, the city outside pulsed with life, but Ethan's penthouse felt hollow. He poured himself a drink, but didn't touch it. The letter lay open on the counter, beside the glow of his phone screen. He could search her name, find her easily. He had the resources to uncover everything about her in minutes. But something in him resisted. For the first time in years, Ethan didn't want control. He wanted truth. He picked up the letter again and whispered Lily. The name felt strange on his tongue. Like saying a prayer he wasn't sure he believed in. Across the city, Lily was closing her eyes to another night of waiting. Her phone screen lit up with a message from her best friend. "You'll hear from him." "I know you will." Lily typed back, "I don't think men like him reply to letters like mine." She didn't send it. She looked out at the rain-streaked glass and whispered, "If you're reading this, please, just say something." At that same moment, Ethan stood by his window again, the skyline stretching endless before him. For years, he'd been praised for his vision, his ability to see opportunity before anyone else. But now, staring into the night, he realized how blind he'd been to the things that mattered. The letter sat on his desk, still open. The silence around him was unbearable. He walked over, took a deep breath, and reached for his phone. A single number blinked on the screen, his private investigator's contact. He hesitated. Then, for the first time in years, he whispered to no one in particular, "What if she's telling the truth?" His reflection in the glass didn't answer. But somewhere far from the towers and numbers and noise, a young woman stirred, unable to sleep, sensing something shifting in the dark. The next morning came too bright for the kind of night Ethan had. He hadn't slept. The letter sat beside his untouched coffee, edges curled, his thumbprint smudged into the paper. For a man who commanded industries, who turned numbers into empires, for sentences from a stranger had him paralyzed. He didn't go to the office. Instead, he opened his laptop and typed, "Lily Andrews, artist, 23. A dozen profiles appeared, but one stopped him, a charcoal portrait of a woman with laughing eyes and messy hair. The caption read, "For the mother who taught me how to see beauty even in goodbye." Ethan's breath caught. Emily's eyes. His jaw. The resemblance wasn't imagination. He whispered, "My God." Across town, Lily sat in a quiet corner of a community art studio, surrounded by colors she couldn't afford. Her phone buzzed, a gallery owner confirming her first exhibit. She should have been thrilled, but her stomach stayed tight. It had been 2 weeks. No reply. Her friend Zoe leaned over. "You're thinking about him again." Lily smiled faintly. "I keep checking the mail like it's 1990. You could try emailing." "I could," she said softly, "but if he didn't respond to a letter meant for his heart, why would he respond to one typed on a screen?" She picked up her pencil and started shading the eyes of her newest portrait, a man half in shadow. She didn't realize it yet, but it looked a lot like Ethan. Ethan met with his private investigator that afternoon in a quiet restaurant, the kind of place where no one asked questions. "Find everything you can on her," Ethan said. "Background, education, her mother." Quietly. The man nodded, sliding a folder across the table. "Already ahead of you." Ethan opened it. Inside were school records, photos, and one hospital bill. "She wasn't lying," the investigator said. "Born in Paris. Same year you were stationed there for the European merger. Her mother listed you as the father, but no one followed up. No court filing. No paternity test." Ethan traced the date on the birth certificate. His chest tightened. He remembered that month, Emily crying at the train station, saying she couldn't do this anymore, and him walking away for a deal. What else? "She's clean. No motive, no angle. She's just a girl looking for you." Ethan closed the folder, the weight of it heavier than any contract he'd ever signed. That night, Lily's phone buzzed. An unknown number. She stared at it until the call ended. No voicemail. Just silence. She waited. Then it rang again. Her hand trembled as she answered. "Hello." A pause. Then a deep voice, cautious, controlled. "Lily, Her heart stopped. Yes. This is Ethan Cole. The name filled the air like thunder, something distant, powerful, impossible. Her voice came out small. You got my letter. I did. Silence stretched. Two worlds trying to find a bridge. Why now? She asked quietly. I don't know yet, he admitted. But I'd like to meet you. They met the next afternoon in a small cafe by the river, neutral ground. Ethan arrived early, wearing his usual calm-like armor. When Lily walked in, time slowed. She wasn't what he expected. No bitterness, no agenda. Just quiet grace and nervous hands. She stopped when she saw him. He stood. Mr. Cole. He nodded. Ethan is fine. They sat. The hum of the cafe wrapped around them, cups clinking, rain whispering against the windows. She placed a small photograph on the table. This was my mom. You knew her, didn't you? He looked down. Emily, younger, sunlight on her face. He swallowed hard. Yes. I did. She used to talk about you like you were a dream, Lily said softly. A dream she never wanted me to chase. Ethan's fingers tightened around his cup. She never told me. I know. The silence between them was thick but not cold, like something fragile trying to be born. He studied her face. The tilt of her chin. The quiet strength in her eyes. You look like her. I've heard that, she said with a faint smile. But everyone says I have your eyes. Ethan looked away, unsteady for the first time in years. You don't owe me anything, Lily. I didn't know. If I had, I'm not here for apologies, she said quickly. I just wanted to see if you were real. That line hit him harder than she could have known. For decades, he'd been anything but real, a ghost in boardrooms, a man whose life looked perfect from every angle except the inside. I am, he said quietly. Lily exhaled, as if she'd been holding her breath for years. Then that's enough for today. She stood to leave, and Ethan instinctively rose. Will you let me see you again? Her eyes softened. Maybe. That night, Ethan replayed every second of that meeting. Her voice. Her restraint. The way she smiled even when her eyes betrayed hurt. He couldn't sleep again. The letter lay on his nightstand, the photo beside it. He realized something painful and beautiful at once. The empire he had built suddenly felt too small to hold what he felt. Across the city, Lily sat by her window, the rain outside blurring the skyline. She whispered, "He's real." Then smiled, small, unsure, but real. Zoe texted, "How did it go?" Lily typed back, "He's not what I expected. He's quieter. Sadder. Kinder." Then, after a pause, "I think I want to see him again." She sent it. For the first time in years, she didn't feel invisible. If you were Lily, would you trust him after just one meeting, or guard your heart a little longer? Tell me in the comments what you think she should do next. Ethan didn't go to the office the next morning. Again. His assistant's messages stacked unanswered. He sat in his kitchen, staring at the untouched breakfast the housekeeper had left. The silence of his penthouse was too wide. For years, silence had been comforting. Now it pressed against his chest like a weight. He opened his phone and scrolled to Lily's number. His thumb hovered over Cole. Then he set the phone down. A man like him didn't know what to say to a daughter he never knew he had. Lily was in her art studio, surrounded by sketches and open paint jars. She kept glancing at her phone too. Zoe noticed. "You're waiting for him to call, aren't you?" Lily didn't look up. "Maybe." "What's your plan if he doesn't?" "I'll survive. I always do." But her hand hesitated mid-stroke. The brush trembled just enough to leave a dark streak across the canvas, a shadow she didn't mean to paint. That evening, Ethan finally called. "Are you free for dinner?" Her voice was cautious but curious. Dinner. I'd like to talk. Properly this time. They met at a quiet bistro overlooking the river. Ethan had chosen it carefully, elegant but not overwhelming. He stood when she arrived, noticing the way her nervous smile mirrored Emily's. "You look nice," he said. "So do you," she replied, then laughed awkwardly. "Sorry, that sounded weird." "It didn't," he said gently. "You're fine." The waiter took their order and disappeared, leaving them with silence that wasn't exactly comfortable but not unbearable either. Lily finally said, "You look like someone who rehearses everything. Do you ever not plan?" He smiled faintly. "I used to think planning was how you kept chaos away." "Did it work?" "For a while." She looked down at her glass. "My mom said life never goes according to plan anyway. She used to say, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your schedule." Ethan chuckled softly. "That sounds like her." Lily tilted her head. "So you do remember?" His voice dropped. "Every day." The food arrived, but neither ate much. Their conversation danced around the truth, circling but never landing. At one point, Lily asked, "Were you angry she didn't tell you about me?" He didn't answer right away. "I was angry at myself first. I made it easy for her to leave." "How?" "I stopped listening," he said simply. "I was chasing something I thought mattered more." She studied him. "Money." "Success," he corrected, then sighed. "But they start to sound the same after a while." There it was again, the honesty that disarmed her. He wasn't perfect. He was painfully human. When they walked out, the city was alive with light. She hugged her jacket tighter against the cool breeze. "Do you ever feel lonely?" she asked suddenly. He hesitated. "More often than I'd like to admit." "Funny," she said, smiling sadly. "So do I. And we didn't even know about each other." Something about that line, simple, quiet, hit him like the truth. He looked at her, realizing loneliness was their inheritance. He wanted to fix that. He didn't know how yet, but he wanted to. The following week, he invited her to his office. She hesitated before stepping inside. Polished marble floors, panoramic skyline views. The place smelled of coffee and power. "This is where you live," she said softly. "It's where I work." "Feels like the same thing." He looked at her, realizing she was right. His office had been his home for years. He gestured toward a chair. "I wanted to show you something." He handed her an old photo album, one he hadn't opened in decades. Inside were pictures of Emily, smiling, holding a paintbrush, laughing into the camera. Lily's fingers trembled as she turned the pages. "She was so young," she whispered. "So were we," he said. She looked up. "Did you love her?" "Yes." His voice was quiet, certain. "But I didn't know how to show it." Lily nodded. She said that once, that love isn't about grand gestures, it's about presence. He winced. "Then I failed twice." Her expression softened. "You're here now." For a second, he couldn't speak. Her forgiveness, so casual, so unearned, left him raw. Later, when she left the office, Ethan stood by the window watching her go. The city stretched beneath him, glittering and cold. His reflection stared back, successful, powerful, alone. He whispered to the empty room, "I don't want to fail her too." That night, Lily called Zoe. "So, how's Mr. Corporate Heartbreak?" Lily laughed softly. "Different. I expected him to be colder. But he's lost." "Lost how?" "Like someone who built the whole world but forgot where his home is." Zoe was quiet for a beat. "And you? Where's home for you, Lily?" Lily smiled faintly. "Maybe I'm about to find out." It started with a phone call. Mr. Cole, his assistant said, voice careful, there's been an accident at the gallery downtown. Fire damage. Your daughter. The word froze him. What about Lily? She's fine. She's actually the one who called. But her work, it's mostly gone. He was already on his way before she finished. When he reached the gallery, smoke still clung to the air. Ash coated the sidewalk like gray snow. Inside, firefighters rolled up hoses while art students stood in shock. Lily sat on the curb, her jeans streaked with soot, her face pale. She was holding something charred, a half-burned sketchbook. Ethan knelt beside her. Are you hurt? She shook her head. Just numb. He looked around at the blackened walls, the melted frames, the ruin of color. These were yours. All of them. Her voice cracked, and the sound hit him harder than the smoke. Without thinking, he reached for her hand. Come with me, he said. You can't stay here. She hesitated at the entrance to his car, glancing at the sleek leather interior. This doesn't feel like my world. Then let it feel like ours, he said quietly. She looked at him, really looked, and got in. Back at his penthouse, she stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the rain streak down the glass. Her reflection looked out of place among the marble and chrome. I shouldn't be here, she murmured. Yes, you should, he replied. You've had a shock. Stay until you figure out what's next. She turned toward him, weary but defiant. You always fix things, don't you? It's what I'm good at. Not everything needs fixing. He froze, realizing she was right. Sometimes people just needed space to breathe. That night, she stayed in the guest room. Ethan worked late, but his focus fractured. He walked past her door once, stopped, and listened. Soft music played, something her mother used to love. He leaned against the wall, eyes closed. For the first time in years, his home didn't feel empty. The next morning, the scent of coffee filled the kitchen. Lily was at the counter barefoot, wearing one of his shirts over her clothes. Morning, she said lightly. I found the beans. Hope you don't mind. He smiled. I don't even know how to make it right. You probably saved us both from a bitter disaster. She laughed, a small genuine sound that loosened something in him. I'm not staying long, she said after a pause. I just need to figure out how to start over. You don't have to do it alone. She met his gaze. I've done everything alone. I'm used to it. He wanted to argue, but didn't. Some walls couldn't be broken with words. By afternoon, they were side by side in his study. She looked at his shelves of contracts and awards. You've built a life out of precision, she said softly. It's the only thing I could control. And love. He looked at her. That's the one thing I never managed. She didn't reply, but the quiet between them spoke volumes. Later she asked, why did you never have another family? He turned from the window. Because I never stopped feeling like I'd lost the first one. Her expression softened. I don't remember my mother crying much, but when she did, it was always quiet. Now I know why. He swallowed hard. Lily, I'm sorry for everything she carried alone. I'm not, she said after a beat. She raised me to be strong. Maybe that's the only reason I had the courage to find you. That night, they shared dinner on the balcony. The city hummed below. She drew on a napkin while he poured wine. What are you sketching? He asked. She turned the paper toward him, a simple drawing of two figures sitting on a rooftop, the skyline in the background. Us? He asked. Sort of, she said. Two people who don't know how to start over, but try anyway. He smiled. You make it sound simple. It isn't, she said softly. But it's real. When she went to bed, Ethan lingered outside, watching the lights of the city fade into fog. He thought about the empire he'd built, the boardrooms and deals, the hollow applause. None of it mattered now. All that mattered was that a girl who looked like the love of his life was asleep in the next room, and that for the first time in decades, he wasn't afraid of being known. That night, Lily woke from a dream and wandered into the living room. Ethan was still there, half asleep on the couch, a file open beside him. "You work even now," she whispered. He rubbed his eyes. "Habit." "Bad one," she said, sitting beside him. They stayed there in the quiet, city lights flickering across their faces. "Do you ever wish you could go back?" she asked. "All the time," he said. "What would you change?" He looked at her. "I wouldn't walk away." Something unspoken hung between them, a fragile thread of forgiveness neither dared to name. Sometimes life brings people together in unexpected ways. If you were in Lily's place, would you let him help you heal, or keep your distance to protect your heart? Comment your thoughts below. The rain hadn't stopped since the gallery fire. The world outside was gray, the skyline blurred like a half-finished painting. Lily was alone in Ethan's study, tracing her fingers across the spines of his books. She paused on a framed photograph half hidden behind a stack of awards, her mother younger, standing beside Ethan. Both smiling, both radiant. She froze. The handwriting at the bottom read, "For E, always yours, M." Her breath caught. M, her mother's initials. The door opened behind her. Ethan's voice was quiet. "You weren't supposed to see that." Lily turned, the photo trembling in her hand. "Why?" "Because it makes everything real." He didn't answer. "Tell me," she said, stepping closer. "Tell me why she left without telling me who you were." He exhaled. "She didn't want you to grow up in my world. I was different then. Obsessed with work. Power. I thought love would wait until I was ready." Her voice broke. "And by the time you were ready?" He looked away. She was gone. Lily set the frame down carefully. "You let her walk away." "I begged her to stay. But she'd already made up her mind." "And you never looked for me?" That silence was louder than anything he could have said. Finally, he whispered, "I tried. I hired people. But she disappeared. She didn't want to be found." Lily's throat tightened. "So you just gave up?" His jaw clenched. "You think it was that easy? Every birthday, I left a letter at the same post office box she once used. None were ever picked up." Lily turned toward the window, fighting the sting in her eyes. "You built a life without us." He moved closer. "No. I built a prison made of success." She faced him, the air thick with everything unsaid. "I used to imagine who my father was," she said softly. "Sometimes I made him a hero. Sometimes I made him a ghost. You're somewhere in between." He flinched. "That's fair." A pause stretched between them, fragile, trembling. Then she said quietly, "I found her diary once. She wrote about you." His voice was barely audible. "What did she say?" "That you loved her, but not enough to fight for her." He shut his eyes. She wasn't wrong. Lily sat down, exhausted by her own anger. "You know what's strange?" she murmured. "I came here looking for answers. Now that I have them, all I feel is tired." He knelt beside her. "You have every right to hate me." "I don't," she said. "I just wish I knew how to stop missing someone I never really had." That line hit him like a blade. He walked to his desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet, simple worn, engraved with a name, Lily. She stared at it. "You kept this." "It was hers," he said. "Your mother left it in my office the day she walked away. I couldn't bring myself to throw it out." She took it carefully, running her thumb over the engraving. "She used to tell me love wasn't about grand gestures, It was about staying. You didn't stay. He looked at her with wet eyes. No. But I'm here now. Silence settled again. But this time, it wasn't hostile. It was raw, heavy with understanding, not accusation. Ethan said quietly, "You remind me of her. The way you speak. The way you hold your ground." "She taught me to stand tall," Lily said. "Even when the ground isn't steady." He smiled faintly. "That sounds like her." For a long moment, neither spoke. The rain outside softened, turning to a steady drizzle. Finally, Lily asked, "If she hadn't left, do you think you would have changed?" "I'd like to think so," he said. "But maybe I needed to lose everything to understand what mattered." She nodded slowly. "Then maybe losing her saved you." He looked at her with something like awe. "And finding you, that's what's saving me now." Later that night, Lily went through a stack of folders he'd left on the table. Photos, clippings, old letters never sent. She traced her name on one envelope, dated years ago. Her voice trembled. "You really wrote to me every year?" "I didn't know where you were, but I couldn't stop trying." She looked at him, eyes shining. "Then maybe you never stopped being my father. I just didn't know it yet." He reached out, and she didn't pull away. Their hands met in quiet forgiveness. The city outside glowed faintly gold under the rain. The skyline shimmered. It felt, for the first time, like the storm was passing. Lily whispered, "Maybe it's time to stop running from ghosts." Ethan nodded. "Maybe it's time to build something new." The next morning felt different. The city still hummed outside, but inside Ethan's penthouse, there was calm, an unfamiliar peace that settled into the corners. Lily sat at the breakfast table sketching while sunlight spilled across her pages. Ethan watched her from the kitchen, holding 2 mugs of coffee like offerings. "You take it black, right?" he asked. She looked up, a small smile tugging her lips. "You remembered." He set the cup down. "I remember what matters." For a while, neither spoke. She drew in silence. He pretended to read the paper but kept glancing at her lines, fluid, alive. Finally, she said, "I used to imagine moments like this. Just ordinary ones." He folded the paper. "Ordinary is underrated." That made her laugh, a real one this time. The sound filled the room, light and alive. He leaned back. "You have her laugh." "She had yours," Lily said softly, "when she let herself be happy." He smiled, and for the first time, it didn't hurt. They spent the afternoon sorting through old boxes. Photographs, drawings, small pieces of another life. Lily held up a faded Polaroid. Her mother stood on a beach, wind in her hair, Ethan's arm around her. "She looks free," Lily murmured. "She was," he said. "She brought that out in me." Lily looked at him, eyes searching. "And me." He hesitated, then, "You remind me what freedom costs, and why it's worth it." Later, they stood by the window, the skyline reflecting in the glass like a memory. "I'm sorry for resenting you," she said. "It was easier than missing you." He nodded slowly. "And I'm sorry for being the kind of man she had to protect you from." Their eyes met, steady, unflinching. Something shifted. The anger had cooled into understanding. They ordered takeout, Chinese, her choice. She used chopsticks like a pro, he fumbled, earning her laugh. "Millionaire CEO can't handle noodles," she teased. "I delegate the tough jobs," he replied. She grinned. "Like eating." "Exactly." It was simple, ridiculous, perfect. When the meal was over, she curled up on the couch. "I used to draw faces," she said. "People I'd never met. I think I was trying to fill the space where you should have been." He sat beside her. "And now?" She smiled faintly. "Now I can stop guessing." The words settled between them, warm and weighty. Ethan stood, disappeared for a moment, and returned with a box. "These were the letters," he said quietly. She opened one. "To my daughter, wherever you are, today you turn 10. I hope you're brave like your mother, and stubborn like me." Her eyes blurred. "You write every year." "I never stopped," he said, "even when I thought I'd never send them." She reached for his hand. "Maybe some things find their way home eventually." They spent hours like that, reading, talking, laughing between tears. She told him about the art school that almost rejected her, about the painting that won her first award. He told her about his early years, his mistakes, his regrets. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't smooth. But it was honest. When she grew quiet, he asked, "What's going through your head?" She smiled softly. That it's strange how comfort can come from someone who once felt like a stranger. He nodded. Maybe that's what healing really is, getting to know the people you were always meant to love. Later, as night fell, they stood on the balcony. The wind was cool. The city glittered below like a promise. Lily leaned against the railing. "When I first saw you, I wanted to hate you," she said. He smiled gently. "And now?" "I can't," she admitted. "You're not who I thought you'd be." "And who did you think I'd be?" "Someone who didn't care." He looked at her, voice low. "I care more than I know how to show." She reached over, resting her hand over his. "Then maybe we start there." The sky stretched wide and calm, streaked with light. For the first time in both their lives, silence didn't mean distance. It meant peace. They stood side by side, the city breathing around them. "I don't know what happens next," Lily said. "Neither do I," Ethan replied. "But whatever it is, we'll face it." She nodded, her voice a whisper. Together. The morning began quietly, too quietly. Rain threaded down the windows, painting silver lines across the city skyline. Lily was sketching again, her pencil dancing over paper. Ethan poured coffee, humming faintly to a rhythm that didn't belong to him. Then his phone buzzed. A notification. One line froze him. "DNA results are in." His chest tightened. He hadn't told her about the test, not yet. He'd sent it off weeks ago, half out of fear, half out of guilt. What if she wasn't his? What if she was, and he'd ruined everything already? He looked at Lily across the room, unaware, peaceful. She was drawing him. He almost smiled, and then the phone slipped from his hand, the screen lighting up with words that turned the air electric. She heard it drop. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," he said too fast. "Just work." Her eyes narrowed. "You sure?" He forced a nod, but his fingers were trembling. Hours later, she found him on the balcony, staring into the rain. "You've been off all day," she said gently. "Just tired." "Ethan." Her tone pressed. "Don't shut me out now." He looked at her, the truth burning in his throat. "I did something. Before you came." She waited. "I ordered a DNA test." Her breath hitched. "You what?" "I had to know," he said. "I needed to be sure." Her face fell. "You didn't believe me?" "It's not that." "I know," she cut in, voice shaking. "That's exactly what it is." Silence. Heavy. Wet. Unforgiving. She turned away, pacing. "You think I came here for money? A name? A place in your world?" "Lily, listen, I came here for you," she snapped, tears spilling. "For the man my mom believed you could be. And you turned it into a transaction." He swallowed hard. "I'm sorry. I've lived with lies, manipulation, lawsuits, people pretending to be family, and you thought I was one of them." He didn't answer. His silence was confirmation enough. She picked up her bag. "You know, I was finally starting to believe this could work, she whispered. That maybe family wasn't a fantasy. But you just proved it still is. He reached out. Please don't, she flinched back. You tested me, Ethan. Like I was something you could verify, not someone you could trust. The rain roared louder. The city blurred behind her. He stepped closer. I made a mistake. A terrible one. But that test, it doesn't change how I feel. She shook her head. It changes everything. She turned to leave, and his voice broke behind her. The results came back. She froze. And he hesitated, eyes wet. It says you're not mine. The world seemed to tilt. Lily's lips parted, but no sound came. She laughed, a short, strangled sound. Wow. So that's it? I'm just no one again. Don't, he said, stepping forward. You are someone. I'm what? Her voice cracked. A mistake you almost loved? He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. You shouldn't have told me, she said quietly. You should have let me believe. I couldn't lie to you. But you did, she whispered. From the start. You lied by doubting me. Her tears fell freely now. You made me believe we were healing, Ethan. Maybe blood didn't matter. But you needed proof. And now that proof says I was never yours. He stepped back, his voice breaking. You are mine, Lily. Maybe not by blood, but by choice. That has to mean something. She looked at him, heart in shards. Then why does it feel like goodbye? He didn't answer. He couldn't. She left her sketchbook on the table, the one she'd been drawing him in. A single page fluttered loose as she walked out into the rain. It was a portrait of him, smiling, holding a child's hand. Beneath it, a single line in pencil, maybe love doesn't need proof. The door closed. Ethan stood frozen, the quiet swallowing him whole. He sat on the couch, holding the fallen page, his throat tight. The words blurred as tears finally came. The phone still lay on the counter, its message blinking like a wound. He opened it again, rereading the final line. Probability of paternity, 0%. Sample contamination detected, retest recommended. His breath hitched. Contamination. The results weren't even reliable. But she was already gone. He pressed his palms to his eyes. God, what have I done? The storm outside raged harder, as if the sky itself couldn't forgive him. He whispered into the emptiness, Lily, please come back. But all that answered was rain. If you were Lily, faced with proof that shattered your heart, would you walk away, or would you stay to hear him out? Comment what you'd do in her place. Rain softened to a mist by morning. Ethan hadn't slept. His suit jacket lay over a chair, his phone still on the table beside the test results he now hated himself for. He read the message again, the small italic line he had missed in panic, sample contamination detected. One word, contamination, and yet it contaminated everything. He wanted to call her. He wanted to explain. But what if she refused to answer? What if his voice reopened the wound he caused? He walked through the penthouse, every room echoing with her laughter. The couch still held her sketchbook's faint graphite dust. Her mug sat by the sink, a ring of coffee dried into the porcelain. He picked it up, thumb tracing the curve. I ruined it, he whispered. Across the city, Lily sat on a bench outside the bus terminal. Her duffel bag at her feet, her sketchbook clutched to her chest. She'd barely slept either. The world felt quieter, thinner. The rain had stopped, but everything inside her still dripped with ache. She flipped open the sketchbook. There was a half-finished drawing of him she couldn't bring herself to tear out. A man unsure of how to love, learning too late that love doesn't ask for proof. She closed her eyes and breathed. A voice beside her, an old woman feeding pigeons, said softly, You look like you're running from something that might still be chasing your heart. Lily smiled faintly. Maybe I am. Then stop running, the woman said. You'll never heal with your back turned. The words sank deep. Meanwhile, Ethan sat in his car outside the Art Institute. He didn't remember driving there. Her painting, the one he'd funded anonymously, hung inside that building. He'd never told her. He stepped out, walked in. The curator recognized him instantly. Mr. Hart. You came to see Still Searching again. He nodded. The painting captured a girl standing before a vast window, the reflection showing a shadow of a man behind her, blurred, almost erased. He stood there a long time, realizing what he'd done. He'd blurred himself out of her life, then doubted the one miracle that had brought her back. He took out his phone, thumb hovering over her contact. One word appeared on the screen, Lily. He pressed call. At the same time, Lily had walked to the departure board, ready to buy a ticket home. Her phone buzzed. She saw his name. Her first instinct was to decline. Then she hesitated. Her thumb trembled before she pressed answer. Lily. His voice was rough, hesitant. She didn't reply. I know you don't owe me anything, he continued. But I need you to hear this. The test, it was wrong. She closed her eyes. Ethan, there was contamination, he said quickly. They couldn't confirm anything. I didn't see it until after you left. She swallowed, unsure if relief or exhaustion filled her. Why are you telling me this? She whispered. Because the truth shouldn't come too late, he said. And because even if it turned out you weren't mine, I'd still want you in my life. You've already changed it. Silence stretched. The crowd buzzed faintly behind her. I don't know if I can trust that, she said finally. I know, he replied. But I'm willing to spend the rest of my life proving it. She hung up, tears gathering. The announcement board blinked. She could still leave. She could go back to the quiet life she knew, one where disappointment was predictable. Or she could stay. Her hand shook as she set down her bag. Ethan sat in his car, engine off, head against the steering wheel. Maybe she wouldn't come. Maybe he deserved that silence. Then headlights swept across his windshield. Her bus hadn't left yet. He saw her through the rain-streaked glass, walking toward him slowly, uncertainly. He stepped out, meeting her halfway on the sidewalk. Neither spoke for a long moment. The city pulsed around them, but the space between them was still. I almost left, she said. I wouldn't have blamed you. But I didn't. Their eyes met. Something fragile and infinite hung between them. I don't know if I'm ready to forgive you, she said. I don't expect you to, he replied. Just don't shut the door yet. She studied his face, the exhaustion, the regret, the quiet plea. You really didn't see the note? He shook his head. I saw only what fear wanted me to see. Her lips parted, then closed again. Finally she said, then maybe we both stop letting fear decide. He nodded, eyes glistening. One day at a time. One day, she echoed. They stood there, no promises, just a beginning rebuilt from what broke. Morning came soft and gold, washing the city in light. Ethan stood by the window, coffee in hand, watching the skyline pulse awake. Behind him, there was movement, quiet, steady, familiar. Lily walked in wearing one of his shirts, sleeves rolled up, her hair loose around her shoulders. Couldn't sleep either, she asked. He smiled faintly. I was afraid I'd wake up and find you gone. She stepped closer. I almost did go. I know. But then I realized, leaving wouldn't hurt less. They shared a look that said what words couldn't, both tired, both healing, both still here. Days passed gently. No grand gestures, no scripts. Just life, two people learning how to occupy the same space without fear. Sometimes she worked on her art in the living room. He'd glance up from his laptop and catch her sketching him again. "You're easier to draw now," she said once. "Because I sit still? Because you stopped pretending you don't feel things." He chuckled. "You inherited your mother's ability to make truths sound like compliments." "She used to say that about you," Lily replied softly. He looked up, meeting her eyes. "Then maybe we're both learning from the right person." That weekend, he took her to the beach, the same one from the old photograph. The air smelled like salt and second chances. They walked along the water's edge. Lily bent to pick up a shell, tracing its spirals with her thumb. "Mom always said the ocean never really lets go of what it loves. It just pulls it back in different ways." Ethan's voice was low. "That's exactly what she did." He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away this time. As they sat watching waves roll in, she said, "You know, even if the test had been right, even if I wasn't your daughter, I think I still would have wanted to stay." He turned toward her. "Why?" "Because you started treating me like family before you had proof." He blinked, eyes wet. "You were family the moment you knocked on my door." She smiled, quiet and sure. "Then I guess that's enough." That night, back in the city, Ethan set something on the table. A sealed envelope, the lab's retest results. "I haven't opened it," he said. "Figured we should do it together." Lily stared at it, her heart calm for the first time. "Does it matter anymore?" she asked. He thought for a moment, then tore it open anyway. They leaned in to read. "Paternity confirmed, 99.9% probability." For a moment, neither spoke. Then she laughed through tears, half disbelief, half relief. Ethan let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. But it wasn't the paper that healed them, it was everything that came before it. Later that week, she stood beside him at the company's charity gala, her artwork now displayed in the main hall. People stopped to admire it, unaware that every stroke on the canvas was a reconciliation in color. When someone asked about the painting's meaning, Lily smiled. "It's called The Reach. It's about finding your way home." From across the room, Ethan watched her, confident, radiant, alive. The girl who once doubted her place in the world now filled it with light. He whispered to himself, "You found me first." At the end of the night, they stepped out onto the terrace. The city glowed below, soft and endless. Lily leaned against the railing. "Mom would have liked this view." "She would have loved seeing you here," Ethan said. "She always wanted you to have the world." "And you?" she asked. "What do you want now?" He looked at her, eyes full of quiet gratitude. "This. Just this." She smiled. "Then don't let it go." He nodded. "Never again." As they stood together, the wind carried the faint sound of laughter from the ballroom below. For the first time, Ethan didn't feel alone in the noise. For the first time, Lily didn't feel like she didn't belong. They were both home, two lives that had run parallel finally merging into one line. Sometimes love doesn't arrive when we expect it, it finds us when we're finally ready to receive it. Do you believe some bonds are destined to reconnect, no matter how far time pulls them apart? Share your thoughts below. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification so you don't miss the next one. It's going to be just as exciting as this. See you there.